Over 2 billion cups of coffee are consumed every single day around the world. That makes it the second most traded commodity on the planet, right behind crude oil. Yet most people who drink it have absolutely no idea what it took to get that liquid into their cup. The journey from a raw coffee cherry on a tree to the perfectly brewed beverage in your hand is one of the most complex food production processes in existence. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover exactly how coffee travels through an almost unbelievable series of stages before it ever reaches your morning routine. We will cover the growing conditions, the harvesting methods, the processing, the roasting, and the brewing science that unlocks all that flavor. And we will get to the one part of this process that almost nobody in the coffee industry talks about openly, because it completely changes how you think about what cheap coffee actually costs. Coffee has been cultivated for over 1,000 years. The most widely accepted origin story places the discovery of coffee in Ethiopia, in a region called Kaffa, sometime around the 9th century. A goat herder named Kaldi reportedly noticed his goats were unusually energetic after eating red berries from a certain tree. Word spread to local monks who made a drink from the berries to help them stay awake during long prayers. From Ethiopia, coffee cultivation moved to Yemen by the 15th century, where it was grown in the Sufi monasteries of the Arabian Peninsula. By the 16th century, it had spread across the Middle East, Persia, Turkey, and North Africa. Coffee houses, called kahvekhana, became centers of social activity and intellectual exchange. When coffee finally reached Europe in the 17th century, it was so disruptive to the social order that King Charles II of England tried to ban coffee houses in 1675, calling them places where people spread seditious talk. Today the global coffee industry is worth over $460 billion annually. Brazil alone produces roughly 40% of the world's coffee supply. Ethiopia, Vietnam, Colombia, and Indonesia round out the top 5 producers. The two main species you need to know are Arabica and Robusta. Arabica accounts for about 60% of global production and is prized for its nuanced, complex flavors. Robusta is heartier, higher in caffeine, and significantly more bitter. It dominates the cheap instant coffee and espresso blend markets. Coffee plants require very specific growing conditions. They thrive in what is called the bean belt, a band that runs between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. Ideal altitude ranges from 1,800 to 6,300 feet above sea level. The plants need rich volcanic soil, consistent rainfall, temperatures between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and partial shade. A single coffee plant takes 3 to 4 years to produce its first crop and lives productively for about 20 to 30 years. Each plant yields roughly 1 pound of finished coffee per year. Think about that the next time you scoop grounds into your filter. The fruit of the coffee plant is called a coffee cherry. It starts green, ripens to yellow, and then turns a deep, vibrant red when ready for harvest. Inside each cherry are typically 2 seeds. Those seeds are what we call coffee beans. Harvesting is where the first major decision in quality gets made. Strip harvesting means workers or machines strip every single cherry from a branch regardless of ripeness. This is fast and cheap but produces inconsistent quality. Selective picking means trained workers walk through the fields and handpick only the perfectly ripe red cherries. They return to the same trees multiple times throughout the harvest season. This is extraordinarily labor-intensive. On steep Colombian hillsides and in Ethiopian highlands, this work is done almost entirely by hand. But here's what nobody talks about openly. The countries that produce the most coffee are among the poorest in the world, and the people doing the most physically demanding work in that chain, the pickers, are often paid less than $2 a day. The specialty coffee boom, with its $12 lattes and single-origin pour-overs, has not proportionally improved conditions for the farmers and pickers at the base of the supply chain. Fair trade certification exists to address this, but less than 10% of global coffee production carries that label. Once cherries are harvested, they go through a processing stage that profoundly shapes the final flavor of the coffee. There are 3 primary methods. The natural or dry process is the oldest and simplest. Cherries are spread on raised drying beds and left in the sun for 2 to 6 weeks, turning regularly to prevent fermentation and mold. As they dry, the sugars from the fruit pulp infuse into the bean. This creates coffees with fruity, wine-like, and complex flavor profiles. Ethiopia produces some of the world's most celebrated natural processed coffees this way. The washed or wet process is more controlled and more modern. The fruit pulp is mechanically removed from the cherry before drying, and the beans are then fermented in water tanks for 24 to 72 hours to remove the remaining sticky layer called mucilage. This produces a cleaner, brighter, and more acidic cup. Most specialty-grade Colombian and Central American coffees are washed. The honey process sits between the two. Some of the mucilage is left on the bean before drying, creating a spectrum from yellow honey to red honey to black honey depending on how much is retained. These coffees tend to have a round sweetness and medium body. After processing, the dried beans are called green coffee. They are sorted, graded for size and density, bagged in burlap or grain pro sacks, and shipped around the world. Green coffee is stable and can be stored for months or even years without significant flavor degradation. It is at this stage that the raw commodity is traded on global exchanges, and price swings can devastate or save entire farming communities depending on the year. The transformation from green coffee to what you recognize as coffee happens through roasting. This is where chemistry takes over in a spectacular way. Inside a rotating drum roaster, temperatures climb from room temperature to between 370 and 540 degrees Fahrenheit over the course of 8 to 15 minutes. Around 300 degrees, a process called the Maillard reaction begins. This is the same browning reaction responsible for the crust on bread and the sear on a steak. Sugars and amino acids react with each other to create hundreds of new aromatic and flavor compounds. Around 385 degrees, the bean undergoes what roasters call first crack, a popping sound similar to popcorn as trapped moisture and carbon dioxide escape. Light roasts are pulled shortly after first crack. They preserve more of the original bean's character, showcasing terroir and origin flavors. Medium roasts develop more sweetness and body. Dark roasts, taken to second crack, push the sugars toward caramelization and eventually carbonization, producing that bitter, smoky, bold profile many people associate with Italian espresso. Here is a counterintuitive data point. Lighter roasts actually contain slightly more caffeine than darker roasts, because the longer roasting process at higher temperatures breaks down more caffeine molecules. That strong, dark cup of coffee may feel more intense, but it is largely an illusion of bitterness, not actual caffeine content. After roasting, beans need to degas for 12 to 24 hours as carbon dioxide continues to escape. Grind size is the next critical variable. A coarser grind for a French press, medium for drip, fine for espresso. The surface area of the grind determines how quickly water extracts the soluble compounds from the coffee. Extraction percentage is the science behind every great cup. Aim for between 18 and 22% extraction. Under-extracted coffee tastes sour and thin. Over-extracted coffee tastes bitter and hollow. Water temperature matters too. The Specialty Coffee Association recommends brewing between 195 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit for optimal extraction. What started as a goat herder noticing energetic animals on an Ethiopian hillside has become a global industry woven into the fabric of virtually every human culture on Earth. Coffee travels through thousands of hands, across dozens of countries, and through an incredibly precise sequence of biological, chemical, and culinary processes before it reaches your cup. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Flavor Vault for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.